Hello, everybody, and welcome to another RCT2 Inside Look, where I go back and take a look at some of my older parks and kind of talk through the history behind them and some of the just thoughts going through the whole park. It's been a couple weeks since I've done one of these, and Six Flags Carolina had come up a couple of times as requests, so I wanted to go through this one. This being the last New Element Spotlight that I won way back in 2010. So this is 10 years old as of now. Um, but anyway, I'm still really proud of this park. It's held up reasonably well. It's a little under detailed perhaps, but I think on the whole it's held up okay. This is based off of a number of different Six Flags parks and a couple others. So it's based off of Kentucky Kingdom, Six Flags America, and Darien Lake. So a couple of different sort of medium-sized parks that have all come together to make this one here. So you can see that the map is kind of cropped weird. It's because I hit the object limit. This was one of the first times I hit the object limit, so there was quite a lot to add in. So I never got to add like cars and things like that. But that was not necessarily something that everybody did back at that point. But anyway, let's start at the front. Here's our peep spawn point on this side, and I have them coming in on the sidewalk to our front entrance with Six Flags, of course, and then our little front entrance area with our ticket booths and a couple of just the season passes, public relations, things like that, restrooms outside, and then into our little Main Street area here. Now I'll show at the end. I did a version without roofs as well, which is part of the reason I hit the object limit. And all the interiors on this park are complete. So we've done all the interior theming and just kind of build out on all the different bits and pieces. So come to the end of the little Main Street here, and you have our Six Flags Carolina sign, again with Six Flags, of course, and our drop tower here, which is Elevator. A nice tribute to the Intamin drop tower that was removed at Kentucky Kingdom after an unfortunate accident. But on this side, we've got our first coaster here. This is Flashback, just a standard Vekoma Boomerang. I have all the multicolored trains at the time, and still Six Flags were doing a lot of wraps on their trains. So it was something that you saw a fair amount of the trains where they just have all sorts of like multicolored bits and pieces throughout their or on the whole train. So simple station, pretty straightforward, but decent overall look. We got our game stalls on either side. Here's some lockers on this side. Over here is a custom ride. This is a breakdance. This was a very poor way of making one of these at the time, since this was well before Open RCT. So this is 16 different rides, all single bobsled car. What a mess. It just took forever to build and to make. So a challenge and not something that I would really want to repeat. Other little shop and on this side, and then continuing over to here is our kids area. So this is Bugs Bunny World. We have our sort of Spanish entrance here on either side. So this is based a little bit off of the Six Flags Over Georgia Bugs Bunny World, which had sort of a Spanish theme to it. That sort of southwesty type look. So we have Roadrunner Express, which is our Arizona Wild Mouse. So pretty simple support structure, but I was pretty happy with the layout. Reasonably accurate, I think. And then the entrance had, kind of cool stuff. It had the little like rock work and everything, and around so you can see it. So there's the bomb over here that's half buried, and little Acme rocket sled and things like that. So the Wile E. Coyote canyon blaster type thing. Then on this side, it has its twisters, a little rock and tug miniature disco, El Sombrero. So the idea was that this might have been like an other kids area before it got the Bugs Bunny theme to it. So that was the Sombrero ride on the side here, and then this up and away, which was a Zamperla ride that was added a little bit later. I think I have this little like maze like hanging carrot thing, which is from Six Flags Over Georgia again. But I kind of wanted to make this a nice little classy kids area. Have our our little theater down at the bottom also. So just some decent little bits and pieces there. Come down from the lakefront here, we have our little photo stall here with the camera. I was pretty happy with the camera at the time. And then continuing along, you had just the pretty simple entrance structures and things like that. And then we had our little kind of small midway here with a couple of custom rides. So this Himalaya was a custom ride vehicle. You can kind of see it. It's not custom ride vehicle, a custom hacked ride. It's two different trains kind of back to back. So it was sort of an early shoestring type attempt, but it's not shoestring, so there's nothing down below it. It's just two ride vehicles sort of pushing along with each other. So sort of a rudimentary way to do that, but turned out okay. And then we have our Huss Rainbow, which is standing but not operating. It was one of those things where you could theme it real well, but you couldn't make it operate. So that's where we left it. And then on the side here, a couple little water splash buttons and things like that for the log flume. On the backside, like this building here was based off of a building that's at Six Flags Over Georgia again. I know I didn't say that among the inspirations for the park in the beginning, but that was another one of them because I was really just using a lot of pictures of existing architecture to develop out some of this stuff. Nice little seating area on the side and restroom building over here, and then tacked onto the back of this is the Ghost Blasters ride, which is a Sally Dark ride, kind of based off of their standard Dark ride rollout. So have a couple of different bits and pieces here. Is a guess your weight game, another little theater or outdoor theater kind of thing, and then Cold Stone Creamery with the obligatory little ice cream cone with the pink ice cream on top. Scrambler and some other parts and pieces here. This led back into the amphitheater space, so the Southern Star Amphitheater, which I was going to remove as a new park edition and then release like another year later, which I did build a coaster layout here, but it was never finished. And back here is some of the backstage areas, which we'll look at in a little bit, and Breeze Lightning, the sadly demolished Schwarzkopf shuttle loop coaster. So here is another one of the hacked rides that I had done. This is a log flume that has two different stations, and they're both working. This, if you watch my hack videos for the log flume, this is essentially the same thing. Just it was done before Open RCT, so it was like 1,000 times more difficult. Do not recommend, but turned out pretty nicely, and I'm pretty happy with the layout. It's nice, simple, compact layout. Nice drop over the water here. On the other side, there's a couple more shops and games and things like that. And then we have this big din coaster. This is Thunder Run. Took the name from Kentucky Kingdom, and then the ride layout from Predator at Darien Lake. Kind of a big double out and back type coaster. Pretty tall compared to some of the other coasters here, and then has these nice little swoopy corners on either end. But I was happy enough with this. And it's got a little tunnel here at the far side, and then some custom support work on the corners here, just to give it a little bit of flavor to that, because some of these wooden coasters of this kind of shape can be a little bit bland at times. Here we have our ADA lift over here, so you can see some of the little details that I could have probably fully fleshed out a little bit better these days, but you know, at the time that was not too bad, I didn't think. Have a couple of nice little airtime hills in here, good double up. Also using the footers throughout, which I do recommend. So one of the weird bits about Kentucky Kingdom is that, the real Kentucky Kingdom, is that there's a roadway that cuts through the middle of it. So Kentucky Kingdom is on the Kentucky State Fairgrounds, uses land as part of that. So the park is split on two halves and has a little bridge connecting across. Honestly, the real bridge is more narrow than this, but this is, again, our only connection across. So we'll take a look at that in a second. Over on this side, we've got another one of those basketball games, swinging ship, some more game stalls. Some of these were kind of modified from some architecture that I had done in Watkins Woods that I kind of pulled over for this. A little bit of a step up in detail, I think, from Watkins Woods. If you saw that review, I think you'd probably agree. And here's our nice little car ride here. This is our Arrow car ride Route 66 from the 80s. And then we have Aunt B's kitchen over here, little buffet style restaurant on this side. So that kind of covers us on this side of the park. We'll jump across the roadway and then take a look. Another weird bit about Kentucky Kingdom is that there's a water park that's kind of circled by the dry park. So we did that same thing here as far as my layout goes. The water park is fully inside the dry park that circles it. So it's kind of a stupid layout in general, but I wanted to kind of emulate the weirdness of Kentucky Kingdom because I do like that park, and it's I thought it was interesting enough. So you can go left or right. We'll go left over to a couple game stalls on this side. Just always begin that. Oh, let's reset our go-karts. Oh no. Try this again. Down to one car. 16. There we go. Okay. So first thing over here is the Teacups Ride, and then we have Pendulum, which is a Huss Frisbee, another custom ride on the side here. While we wait for the go-karts to populate, we have our stands here, and then the little gift shop behind it, little Dippin' Dots cart. Wanted to have some of these sort of standard carts that you might see at fairgrounds, just tossed in and around, since that was a thing that I noticed at Kentucky Kingdom and Darien Lake also. And then back here, just a bunch of different pavilions, all different names for pavilions. And then some simple details like transformers and things like that, because it can get repetitive, especially things like this back here. And then just little warehouse buildings and all sorts of bits and pieces like that. I mean, kind of when in doubt, just build some warehouses and stuff in the back, because it'll sort of add some depth to your park, in my opinion. So this go-kart should be loading soon. I'll speed up the time a little bit. But these go-karts are per one of the hack tutorials that I just did. If you watch the go-kart tutorial hack, you can take a look at this. But it's funny because I look at how quickly the here it's just resetting itself. But I look at how quickly we were able to do the hack tutorial and how long it took to do this one. This was a process. This took me hours and hours and hours across a couple of days to get this correct. It was a pain and a half to do this properly. So just like the one that I did in the tutorial, it has a separate pit lane. It makes 4 laps around the track and then goes into the pit lane. It has a lot of crossovers and things, which is sort of the downfall. And then I talked about that in the tutorial. So it occasionally gets stuck. And if we stick around long enough, you'll probably see it crash also, which is a shame. But I was just happy to have it done and do it, because I think this was pretty cool, especially for 10 years ago. I think this was reasonably impressive enough. So I'm proud of that one. Over here we have another Six Flags staple, an SLC. I was reasonably happy with how this SLC layout came out. You can never really replicate these perfectly with the limitations of the game, but I was pretty happy how this turned out, and the support work is okay. Decent enough, I suppose. I liked the setting over top of the lake on the one side with some overgrowth underneath of it, or undergrowth, I suppose it would be. Pretty big queue line here, and simple station, but detailed enough. Through here, a lot is pulled from Kentucky Kingdom. So the Hurricane Harbor entrance here, and then all these little 4 buildings, that's all pulled similarly. And I wanted like this Enjoy M&M sign. The Six Flags is doing a lot of these like big advertisements for other companies, for like sponsors at the time. So I wanted to keep those parts and pieces in. Pretty simple drop or splash boats ride, splash waterfalls. We do have a couple of filtration pieces here, but that's really about it. There's not a whole lot of detail behind this. I just went with the standard oval. We do have a water pipe that kind of shows our water feed up to the top, so that's something. And then I wanted to add this. If you go by the chronology in all the different ride names, they all have the manufacturer and the year. This is the most recent coaster, so this is Terminator. This was when Magic Mountain had also had Terminator for the year before they lost that branding, and then it just became Apocalypse. So what I wanted to do is make this look like it had been built sort of as a last-ditch resort on this side because they had run out of space. So that's why this has a bridge over top of the service road. It's why it's sort of off over here on its own. And sort of self-contained pretty nearly. But I was reasonably happy with this layout. So we got the station fly-through in there. It's based a little bit off of Kentucky Rumbler, a little bit off of Apocalypse 2. So there's some pretty simple theming, like this truck and this flame thing, a couple of little tunnels here and there. So it's not too bad. I did like the station. I thought the mix of the metal and the wood was kind of cool. Decent, simple look. Kind of felt like something Six Flags might do. So keep it simple, and then also just if they're looking at budget, this is about as low budget as you can go for a little gift shop. 2 little canopies, 1 roof, 1 kind of stretched fabric sort of canopy. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but I was pleased with it. Our ladder game here, a staple in a lot of my parks. I do a ton of those. So back here we get to the biggest coaster in the park, and actually the first one that I built. So this was the very first thing that went onto the map, to be honest. It went in as Chang. If you know Kentucky Kingdom, and at least their history, you will recognize this as Chang, the stand-up coaster they have. It's a pretty close recreation, not exact, but close enough. But I rethemed it as Bizarro, which they had just recently done to Superman in New England. So we have our nice purple and blue color scheme, which I kind of liked. It seems sort of like a bold choice, for example. But simple station here, and nice little support work on the lift hill. So we have the 3 supports that all come down into the same footer. A couple of different spots here. That was a thing that B&M was doing at this era of time. So I think I have this one from 2010 as when it got converted to Bizarro, but 1997 is when it got put in initially, which kind of lines up. So we have a little bit of extra theming here, like these Superman and smoke pieces, and then we've got this like drill bit thing, which they had put onto Medusa at Great Adventure when that one had gotten Bizarro overlay, and then the same thing with these like little house or building facades that you shot through in the middle. I also wanted to maintain the corkscrew over top of the queue line entrance, since I really did like that as part of actual Chang. And on the back side here, we have a third train that's kind of fallen apart down here. You'll notice it's different colors because this went into disrepair back when Chang was still Chang. So I wanted to keep that on its own. All right, continuing along, we have our little Justice League theater here. So pretty simple stuff. And then the Batmobile, which means we're getting close to another coaster. But first, there's this corner theater that has some pretty simple stuff. It's a Batman stunt show. Kind of dead. You could probably throw in some peeps and things like that. But, I mean, the facade was okay. Easy enough. But over here is Batwing. So this is another recreation, which kind of filled most of the stuff in this park, because I really did want it to feel like a mid-level Six Flags park where you're really doing a lot of the work with clones and kind of the various spend that you would see Six Flags doing at this point to some of their like moderate level parks, like a Six Flags America, for example. So this is a clone of Batwing at Six Flags America, the last of the Vekoma Flying Dutchman, I believe, 2002 when that one opened. So it's a pretty substantially large ride, takes up a ton of space, but over here on the side, it really doesn't make a huge difference, and I think it works pretty well. We did not make, or I did not make both stations run, so we're looking at just the one side, but you can see the third train is over there on the transfer track, and then the other one is sitting there kind of waiting to go, so we just don't, or I'm just not using the other station on this side. But I was pretty happy with this one, pretty proud of how this one turned out, and the support work and everything like that. Continuing down, there's the Penguins Blizzard River. with the little penguin statue here, a couple of tunnels and things like that, and then the ice pieces here and there. This is another hacked ride where you can see that it does the wide corners, but it also has the rapids elements. So you've got all the different parts and pieces up underneath, so you can see all the log pieces underneath. And then when the ride goes over top of it, it does make the rapids. Again, if you looked at the horse hacking tutorial that I had done, same deal, same setup there. Pretty happy with the way that this building turned out, including this bridge over top and then the kind of overlook on either side. Based off of Six Flags New England's, and then also some of the other ones like Kentucky Kingdoms. That one did pretty well. Over here we had the Fearless Freeps Daredevil Dive. So this is an upcharge. One of these guys, which I think is stuck actually. There we go. So the way that this hack was done at the time, kind of the best way to do it, and I had stolen this from Feitage at Six Flags Worlds of Excitement. It rocks back and forth, but at different levels each time, so it kind of slowly works its way down to the bottom. Not the cleanest, of course, but it was enough. And then finally, we have our little coaster here. This is Great Chase. This was a little miler coaster. And it's pretty simple. And then a little carousel square here. This is the Riverview Carousel from PTC 1984. And then these two little buildings on either side that I think I might have stolen from Six Flags Over Georgia, perhaps. But I did like the buildings kind of on diagonal with their little dumbbell shape. I thought looked kind of nice, along with the Panda Express right here, and then this other little shop on the side here, and then finally we have Revolution Huss Enterprise. So if you come into the water park, go back to the Hurricane Bay side, we have a couple of different hacked rides in here. I wanted to make sure that every ride was working to some extent on this section. So we have our wave pool, which has the ship that's kind of wrecked on the top side, but still has the structure behind it for like all the wave equipment. The little red-green light, whether it's going or not, and then the little placard here, which is meant to be a timer. So this little swim guy, so it's Castaway Cove. You can kind of see him swimming in there. We have 2 lanes worth of bumper boats, which was meant to be the lazy river. That kind of circles a couple of different things. And then 2 bits here. So this is Runaway River and, well, both Runaway River, apparently. Using the same lift hill here in the middle, so you can kind of see this raft is about to go up, and then there's going to be this other raft, which is also going to go up. Sadly, only 1 raft per side, but it does work, and it takes peeps, so I was pretty proud of that one. Same thing with this guy here. So you can see the peep here on the green Cannonball Falls slide as he lands and comes to a pretty abrupt stop, but he still comes off. Same with the yellow and the purple. So they all do work from, I think, from the 1Q. I don't quite remember, to be honest. Then we have our little kids play structure here. Maybe a little bit too heavy on the fencing and details, but I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. Nice little shallow water play area, pretty lush on either side. Then same thing with the buildings on this side. Over here we have the bowl slides, which both do work. A little bit messy for sure from a hacking standpoint, but I was pretty happy with them at the time, and they are massive, but I'll take it. I think it turned out pretty well. And then over here, this is one of the limb launched water slides from Pro Slide. Kentucky Kingdom had just put theirs in 2008, I think it was. So I wanted to copy that, including the color scheme and everything. So you load up top, get off at the bottom, and then the lift hill is taken from just without peeps on it. So I wanted to make something pretty fun, pretty simple, but I was really proud of how this one turned out. And in general, I was kind of happy with it. But yeah, I mean, it turned out nicely. And let's load up the no roofs version, and then we can look at the exterior stuff also. But it's held up. I'm happier with this park than I am with Watkins Woods, for example. Just because this one feels more fleshed out. It's definitely more thought out as far as back of house areas go and things like that. So you can kind of see where there aren't roofs on all this. Like I did all the buildings, like including the restrooms and all the little shops, and then here we have the little food stand in here with the tables and everything. Over here we have our Panda Express, which has the little food lines and everything. Here's a nice little arcade with Cruising USA, and then a couple other arcade staples in there. All down Main Street, all the different parts and pieces, including the stroller rental on the side, and then some of these other bits and pieces here. So this was sort of my claim to fame, I guess, at the time, is that I was doing full interiors, which is great, and I would gladly still do them, except that the object limit got in the way. But I found that it was a really nice way to think about what you were doing inside a building, and kind of forces you to think about the overall shape and function of what's going on the outside. So it's not, so the building has a little bit more depth overall, I think. But as far as the exterior and everything go, or surroundings go, we have a couple of little parts and pieces. So like here's a 2 greenhouses, sort of off in the middle of nowhere here. This is where additional objects would have helped. And just a lot of little back of house details. Like here's a chiller with some bollards on either side. Here's a little employee break area and the little dumpsters and things. The maintenance area, I think, is maybe the most fleshed out. So we have a central rides building, and then a couple of other like carpentry shop and plumbing shop, wood shop, things like that. A couple of little trailers here, and then here is the Grease Lightning coaster. So all the different parts and pieces, including the train, kind of scattered around here with the loop that's buried, meant to be just half of the loop. Kentucky Kingdom did get a Grease Lightning from both Six Flags Over Georgia and Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Kind of both gave parts from theirs, and or not Discovery Kingdom, California's Great America, I think. Actually, no, it was Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Had it, I think, is in pieces, and then sent it to Kentucky Kingdom, and to kind of make a Frankenstein coaster together with all of those parts and pieces. But a couple different buildings here, like just an office building, and then there's our security gate right here. But then outside the park, there's a couple of other things, like here's the marketing building. Here's a couple other trailers, like the design building and the finance space, and then the corporate offices here. Or, well, park offices, I guess, which is like the park president space and everything. But trying to get the details and everything in here, like we have our boardroom with a projection and everything, and there's like restrooms and all the things in there. So again, like I said, it really helps to think through the whole building when you have to lay out an interior. And then other bits and pieces, like we have this half of a hotel. I think it was a Hampton Inn. It's half because I ran out of objects, but at least at this point you can kind of get the cutaway and see that everything fits and makes sense. Some tolls on this side. Here's our big entrance, and then over here is the Arby's little drive-through as well. Here's a collection of strip mall shops, and here's the employee area in the back, and then more kind of employee training facilities and break rooms and things like that back here. Here's a train line. This is a CSX rail line on the back, and then a Home Depot warehouse on the back side here with this kind of cool diagonal bridge that comes over and connects up with the park. Here's another toll lane on this side. I actually wanted to do quite a bit more with this, so if you can see where the landscape ended. Like I wanted to build this entire roadway out and have just a commercial district on either side. I wanted to have a big highway that was raised up to going diagonally across the side, but again, the object limit got in the way, which is a shame because I feel like there could be so much more done. It's not something that I'm going to revisit if the object limit ever does go away, which hopefully it will, but it's just, it would have been a nice to have at the time. But I'm still pretty happy with this park. Bizarro definitely remains my favorite coaster, even though it was the first. But I was pretty jazzed at how Terminator turned out. I think that one looked rather nice. But really making nearly everything peepable. It was kind of my first foray into a bunch of hacked rides used realistically. And then since this, I've kind of come to the idea that every ride in my park ought to be hacked, or ought to be peepable. So just trying to figure out a way to make all that happen. So this was definitely a springboard to more things like that. But I'm pretty happy with the park. I think it turned out nice, and it still holds up reasonably well. Has a lot of good details. So if you're looking for realistic park building, you might be able to learn a thing or two from this one. I mean, if you haven't checked it out before, give it a try. I will put the download link in the description below, so you can check it out. I'm running out of inside look stuff to do, I think. I've probably got a number of other small ones, and we can go real old and look at some trash parks that I did pretty early on, but I'm not sure anybody wants to see those. But I will get back to more regular reviews soon for other parks. We have a ever-growing backlog, and I do want to get to those too, because there's a lot of really cool stuff out there that's getting released that ought to be seen. So definitely get ready to take a look at that. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and hope you enjoyed this one. If you have recommendations, things you'd like to see, feel free to let me know, and I will try and get to it. So until next time, thanks very much.